Hello and welcome to the January 2011 meeting of TV Toastmasters. My name is Rick Barron and I'm the club president. We meet the third Saturday of every month at 9 a.m. at the Anderson Center at 7850 5 Mile Road. If you'd like some additional information about our club and our meeting, please visit www.tvtoastmasters.com. That's www.tvtoastmasters.com. How are you doing on your New Year's resolution? Did you cringe and hide when I asked that question? Well, there are two people today who are making progress on their resolutions because those that take action are the ones that achieve their goals. Today we have Jonathan Katterberg from the Indiana Wesleyan University visiting us, and Chris Ganster, who's an intern with ACTV from the College of Conservatory of Music at UC. They are here in the studio visiting us today, working on those goals that they established for 2011. So maybe TV Toastmasters can help you achieve your goals as well. Please come visit us third Saturday of every month, 9 a.m. at the Anderson Center. Today we've got a very full agenda, but first I'd like to introduce our Toastmaster of the day, Rick Davis. Rick is a distinguished Toastmaster and our previous club president, and he will guide us through the meeting today. Rick?
Thank you, Rick. Although this is our January meeting, this is going to be shown in February, so I'm wearing my red shirt because I want everyone to be reminded that Valentine's Day is coming up. As a male in this society, if you forget Valentine's Day, you are in serious trouble. So I want everybody to remember that Valentine's Day is coming up. It's very subtle, and it's not like Christmas. Christmas starts arriving around Halloween now. Valentine's Day, normally you don't hear about it until the 12th, the 13th, something like that. So start thinking about it, get those reservations, order the candy and the flowers and all that stuff so you don't get into trouble, and we don't want you living on your couch. All right. First opportunity today for a speaker is Paul Wessels, and he's going to come up and give the word of the day. Paul.
Thank you. My job today, and this is for John and everybody out there that has not seen any meetings or Toastmaster meetings. I am the grammarian, and what the grammarian does, two things with the grammarian. First thing the grammarian does is it introduces new words to members, and that's what I'm going to do right now. And I don't know if you can see it out there, but there's a word in front of the lectern, and that word is proficient. And proficient is used as an adjective usually. And what proficient means is well advanced or competent in any art, science, or subject. Skilled. And one way to use the word proficient in a short sentence, a proficient swimmer, a good swimmer, a well-skilled swimmer. Or another sentence is, Dad knows his way around the kitchen and is quite a proficient cook. So the word for today is proficient. And as the grammarian, I also try to evaluate those that come up here and speak. I try to look for crutch words such as and I've been known to say a few ahs and ums and things in between. So we look for those, and we try to look for awkward words, and we count the number of times one uses the word of the day, which is proficient. So that's what I'm going to be doing as the grammarian today.
Thank you, Paul. All right, our next speaker is very proficient. Our next speaker is beginning her 15th year as a Toastmaster. I remember her when she was just a child, just starting out with her icebreakers. She cherishes the life-changing lessons learned from her Toastmaster speeches. Her speech today will assist you in achieving the Toastmaster's educational goal along the way to achieving a larger personal goal. What action will you take after hearing Harvard grads, goals, and you? Let us give a hearty welcome to Carol Kormelink, DTM 3, Harvard grads, goals, and you. Carol.
How would you like to have 2 times your earning power, or would 10 times appeal to you more? Well, listen up. In 1979, interviewers interviewed the Harvard MBA grad class, and they discovered that they fell into 3 separate groups. The first group, 84% of the grads had no goals. 13% of the grads had goals, but they were not written down. And 3% of the grads had clear, concise, written goals and plans to achieve them. Jerome will be passing out the graph that will show this, and 10 years later, when they interviewed these same grads, they found that the income of the 84% was the $100,000 a year that an MBA grad can expect to get. The 13% with the written goals, they doubled that earnings, $200,000 a year. The 3% with the clear, concise written goals had 10 times the income, or $1,250,000 in income. Now, what made the difference? The power of written goals is indisputable. And if you want to be more efficient, you will do some planning for your goals. And then, as Rick asked you, were you cringing with your New Year's resolutions because you weren't making them? Well, I would like to share the SMART goal formula that I use. And S stands for specific, M, measurable, and you don't have to write this down because I will be passing out a graph as soon as I finish this in a minute. Specific, measurable, A, action-oriented, R, realistic, and T, time-bound. Are you going to be able to be proficient if you don't have written goals? You'll be able to accomplish, because there's 84% of the grads pulling in $100,000 a year. That's not too shabby. But take a moment while Jerome is passing out the goal sheet and think about what you might like to achieve as an educational goal this Toastmaster year. Now, I'm not going to overwhelm you. Well, yeah, I will. But don't try to emulate. Larry Goldsmith is a Toastmaster in Columbus. I'm looking at his list of accomplishments for this year. He has already completed 12 educational achievements, which means he's given over 50 speeches already. And I called Larry up in Columbus. I said, Larry, how are you doing this? Larry belongs to 5 clubs. He belongs to the Nationwide Club, which has 5 clubs there. So he has access to all these places to give speeches. He also is required to give a lot of speeches at his work. And he said, usually there's someone in the audience that's a Toastmaster, so he can be evaluated on those. And he said, because I'm giving all these speeches, that makes him a better presenter for his work. So I don't expect you to try to emulate him, because to me that's overwhelming. I have no thoughts of even trying to do that. I did 1 CC this year and plan to complete another one, because I'm in 3 clubs and I want to help each of my clubs. And so the SMART goal formula, if you will read there, the first one is the specific. Write down specifically what you want to achieve. And when you look in your Toastmaster magazine for this year, some of the different goals, on the one page in here, the article tells how the goal is not specifically that you complete the manual. The goal is the process, what you become by completing that manual. And if you would like to earn a competent communication or an advanced leadership or advanced communicator this year, or any of the education goal, if you have a plan, then you will be able to see better how you have to accomplish it. Now with this club, if you have 6 speeches to go and we meet only once a month, that means if you want to complete a manual this year, that you would be needing to go to another club to give speeches. And believe me, there's plenty of clubs that would welcome you. Rick wanted to, he had a goal for himself, Rick Barron, that he was going to be, as soon as he wanted to complete his manual by November. Well, we didn't have speaking slots that he could do that. So what he did was he went to another club and he completed his 10th speech and received his communication goal on time. Now, when you receive this, it's measurable. Well, as I said, this, when you receive your competent communicator, that is not specifically the goal. That is the measurement that you did something that you learned and you progressed in your speaking skills, your communication skills. So measurable, and then action-oriented, and you start with the word to, followed by the action verb of what you will do. I will give so many speeches, I will do this, I will do that. And then the realistic, is it realistic? Well, that's up to you whether or not you follow your goals. And everyone that has become a distinguished Toastmaster, and we have quite a few distinguished Toastmasters in our group, we have all completed a high-performance leadership manual, and we found out by having the vision, by setting up the goals, how much more we could accomplish. I'm a person, I like to do everything myself. I didn't like to delegate because you can't always depend on people when you delegate, and I had to learn to delegate, and you actually get more accomplished by delegating because 5 or 6 people can do a lot more than just one person can do. So the SMART formula, that's on the time bound would be June 30th, and as I said, if you don't have enough time then you want to complete your goal by the 30th, then you would need to go to another club to be giving speeches. And what I do, I like to make wiggle room, and so I don't set June 30th as my goal. I set May 1st, because I know if I make it May 1st, I'm going to make it by June 30th. And all my goals I always set ahead of time. I'm going to want to look really good and trim on October 1st when my grandson gets married. There's a bajillion things that I could do to make myself do that, but I can't do them all at once. I need to just be doing one of those at a time to make that a habit and another one. So the SMART formula works like this. You'll be more proficient. The thought is father to the deed. And when you sow a thought, you reap an action. When you sow an action, you reap a habit. And when you sow a habit, you reap a character. When you sow a habit, you reach a destiny. The SMART formula will help you work smarter in your quest for a career advancement, your personal goals, or even a relationship. And remember, only 3% of adults have written goals, and everyone else works for them. Mr.
What future do you envision for yourself? What dreams do you have? If you want your dreams to come true, you must have confidence in yourself and your abilities. A Toastmasters Club can help you build that confidence. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters shows you how to express yourself clearly and effectively. Make your dreams a reality. Join a Toastmasters Club.
Our next speaker is Michelle Hennekes. She's currently our Sergeant at Arms in our club. She's been a member of TV Toastmasters since November of 2009. She'll be presenting her third speech, project number 3, Get to the Point, from the Competent Communication Manual. The title of her speech, It's a Privilege. Michelle Hennekes.
Last October, I was sitting at my desk and I heard the usual chime indicating that another email had come into my inbox. So I glanced at it quickly and realized it was another forward. Not a big fan of forwards. In fact, 95% of the time, I don't even open them, let alone read them. But I was taken by surprise to see who the sender was. It was my sister-in-law and dear friend Mandy. Mandy's a mother of 4 girls under the age of 5, and she also works full-time in management at a contract pharmaceutical manufacturing company. So Mandy barely has enough time to tie her shoes, let alone to send forwards. So I was a little intrigued to see what the topic of the email was. I clicked on the email. Mandy started out by saying, "I normally don't send forwards, but this was very inspiring." So I read on. The email was a chronological depiction of how the American women received the right to vote. It outlined the remarkable and little-known history of what the women's suffrage movement what the passionate and dynamic women did so that you and the women in this room could vote. We all know from our history and our government classes that women received the right to vote via the 19th Amendment in 1920 under President Woodrow Wilson's term. But unless I wasn't paying attention, they didn't really depict what the suffrage movement really was and what it entailed. They didn't tell us what these women did so that I and the other ladies in this room could close the curtain on a poll booth. The movement was led by brilliant and proficient activists and organizers, Alice Paul and Lucy Burns. These ladies founded the NWP, which is the National Women's Party, in 1916. They implemented nonviolent tactics such as parades, mass meetings, picketing, even hunger strikes in order to get their voices heard. In 1917, they set up the first political protest to picket the White House. This was the first time Americans had ever picketed the president's residence. And even though they were nonviolent, they became known as the Silent Sentinels because they were nonviolent. They held banners up saying things such as "Wilson against women" or "President Wilson, how long do you advise us to wait?" But this led to outrage, and these women were actually imprisoned on charges of obstructing traffic, even though they were peacefully standing on the sidewalk. This then led to what became known as the Night of Terror. 33 of these picketers, there were essentially 150 total, were brought into prison. They were brutally beaten and tortured by 40 prison guards. They were chained to their beds. They were fed food with mealworms. They were tortured, and it was just horrendous living conditions. But you know what? They fought back. They fought back by having hunger strikes. They refused to eat. This infuriated the prison guards. They actually force-fed these women by putting tubes down their throat. In fact, when President Wilson and his cronies caught wind of this, they pulled a doctor in to evaluate Alice Burns, tried to convince him to declare her insane so that she could be institutionalized. The doctor looked at him and said, "Sorry, Alice is strong and brave. It doesn't make her insane." He admonished the men, and he said, he said, "Confidence and courage in women is often mistaken for insanity." Word of these horrible conditions, the force feedings, leaked out into the public. And the public opinion dramatically shifted of these suffragites. They became known as the Iron-Jawed Angels. Under extreme pressure, World War I had begun. President Wilson was forced to change his opinion on the amendment, the suffrage amendment, because it was a war measure to strengthen the U.S. democracy during this troubled time. However, even though he changed his position, the amendment still was shot down by the U.S. Senate. That didn't bother any of these women. They continued to fight, and the following year, the amendment was reintroduced. And by 1920, 35 states had ratified the amendment. The 36th state was needed, and that was Tennessee, when a legislator received a telegram from his mother encouraging him to cast the final vote. So on August 26, 1920, the Susan B. Anthony Amendment becomes law, and 20 million American women win the right to vote. It's very clear to me that women were considered third-class citizens in this country. It was it was a widespread fear that if women were given the right to vote, they would lose sight of their traditional roles as mothers and wives. I can't imagine not having a voice in my government. In fact, I felt like that was something I deserved. But after learning that these women, less than 100 years ago, didn't, I realized this is an honor. This is the story of our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers and what they went through, what they were considered in their state, their country. Where I wish all social studies and government teachers would actually tell you what really happened during this time. So please refresh my memory. Why won't some women go out and vote this year? They're tired. They have to get to work. It's raining outside. Their vote doesn't make a difference. What would Lucy Burns, Alice Paul, and all these other women put their lives on the line, think of the way that I use or don't use my right to vote? Unfortunately, women are still not voting in the numbers that they need to. So gentlemen, please tell your wives and your daughters the story of the suffrage movement. Ladies, share it with your sisters. Because remember, voting isn't an obligation, it's a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. We'll be back right after these words.
I'd like to begin tonight with a little joke. This guy, he's a farmer, and he says, hey, hello, sorry. But seriously, folks.
Speaking in public is no joke.
Farmer says, doctor says, chicken says...
For help, call Toastmasters, the public speaking support group.
The chicken.
All right, welcome back. Our next speaker is Rick Barron. He is the current club president and recently served as the Vice President of Public Relations for TV Toastmasters. He's the Associate Director of the Society of Home Business Owners and a co-author of the soon-to-be-released book, How to Make a Legitimate, Even Extraordinary Income from Home. The title of his speech is Pedal to the Metal. Rick Barron.
Thank you, Rick. There is probably no more visible symbol of the freedoms that we enjoy in this country than our automobile. We grow up glamorizing the car and the freedom that it provides, only later to fall victim to that same freedom. Just try to take the car keys away from your aging parent or grandparent. Unfortunately, we are faced with just having to do that as the population within the United States ages. Carnegie Mellon University provides us some statistics that are very alarming. The fatality rate of drivers once they reach the age of 65 skyrockets dramatically. For drivers between the ages of 75 and 84, the fatality rate is equivalent to that of teen drivers. And for drivers over the age of 85, the fatality rate is 3 times what it is for teen drivers. Our population is aging quite rapidly. This year, 658,000 Americans will turn 65, joining more than 40 million Americans who are already in that age group. The largest growing segment of the U.S. population is those 85 and older. 85 and older. Few states have done anything to regulate driving for elderly drivers, taking customary measures of just requiring them to come in rather than mail in the renewal for their driver's license. Only 2 states require a driving test. Only 2 states. My proposal for you today is that we add a new license classification for elderly drivers age 65 and over. This classification would be required to be renewed every 2 years and would require a vision test, a hearing test, and some form of motor skill or other kind of test before they are allowed to renew their driver's license. As compensation for this inconvenience, they would not pay to renew their driver's license. It would be free to drive after the age of 65 in terms of what you pay to renew your driver's license. But you would have to go through these continued testing to verify that you're capable of being behind the wheel. Next time you've got the pedal to the metal, look around, take notice of the drivers around you, and ask yourself whether or not the safety of our roads would be improved if we were to add a new license classification for drivers age 65 and over. Mr. Toastmaster, thank you.
Thank you, Rick. We'll be back right after this message.
Thank you very much. And now for our next speaker, Stanley Glitchner.
Speaking in public doesn't have to be a death sentence. At Toastmasters, we can help you overcome your fears.
Welcome back to TV Toastmasters. Our next speaker is our Vice President of Education this year, and he is a distinguished Toastmaster. He'll be speaking from the Communicating on Television manual, which the objective is an effective presentation presentation of an opinion or viewpoint in a short time. Steve Ahrenholz will be presenting Presentism Should Be a Concern for You. Presentism should be a concern for you. Steve Ahrenholz.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, honored Toastmasters, our fellow guests, and those of you looking in from home. October 2010 was the start of the 2010-2011 influenza season. Last year at this time, we were experiencing the first influenza pandemic of the 21st century. A topic of sometimes heated discussion was the need for all workers to have sick leave benefits. Opposition was substantial, even if it wasn't directly stated. Frequently, the topic was presented along with the concept of presenteeism. Presenteeism is the opposite of absenteeism, which we associate with a worker not showing up for work. Presenteeism is the problem of workers being on the job, but because of medical conditions, they're not fully functioning. Presenteeism regarding influenza is a public health issue. A specific example of concerns associated with presenteeism and influenza is the one found in the food service industry. A study released September 30th of 2010 by the Restaurant Opportunities Centers United, and this article or this report was entitled Serving While Sick, High Risks and Low Benefits for the Nation's Restaurant Workforce and Their Impact on the Consumer, looked at one of the concerns associated with having no sick leave benefits. The restaurant industry is one of the largest and fastest growing sectors of the United States with over 10 million workers. The report analyzed surveys from 4,323 restaurant workers nationwide. This is one of the largest surveys of restaurant workers that has ever been conducted. The report also included individual surveys of 240 restaurant operators and 240 of their workers. The median wage for restaurant workers nationwide is $8.59, and this seldom includes paid sick days. The study information was collected over a period that began in 2003 and ended in 2010. Local restaurant coalitions that were included were in 8 different regions. These were New York, Chicago, Metropolitan Detroit, New Orleans, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Miami, and Maine. Of the over 4,000 workers surveyed, 87.7% reported not having paid sick days. 79.3% of this group reported not receiving any paid vacation days at all, and 63.6% reported working when sick. For many, the choice is to go in and work when ill or lose your job. With influenza, even though there is disagreement in scientific circles regarding the routes by which ill food service workers impact their consumers, the risk to the consumer is evident. Additionally, workers coming to work ill present a risk to their fellow workers by spreading their infection. Restaurant workers indicated that they had no idea how many of their customers they may have infected when working while ill. The National Restaurant Association representing restaurateurs took exception with the Restaurant Opportunity Centers United report. However, there is no government data source that lists individual workers of restaurants in each city. This makes it extremely difficult to conduct a strictly random sample of the restaurant industry. Sick days shouldn't be regarded as an optional benefit. The influenza season normally starts each October and lasts until late March or early April. As you dine out over the coming months, you may be getting more than you anticipated if the workers at your favorite restaurant have to choose between coming to work ill or losing their job.
Thank you, Steve. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
If you can't express your ideas effectively, every day competition for advancement gets tougher and tougher. You need an edge. A Toastmasters club can give you that edge. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters gives you the confidence to express your ideas to anyone. Get the Toastmasters edge.
Welcome back. The next portion of the meeting has to do with our impromptu speaking, and Sheila Mudd-Baker is going to lead us in table topics. Sheila.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. For those who are in our audience who have never seen this show before, Table Topics is a form of questioning that we get all the time, like, how are you? Or what did you do this weekend? We have an impromptu answer. So we will have 3 people today answering questions. The first question is, how did Star Trek change our society? Rick Davis.
What's Star Trek? Oh. Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. It's interesting because if you talk to the experts, I think what they say is that Star Trek is almost a morality play. It's almost like a religious kind of play, you know, the good against evil and all that kind of stuff. And if you take Star Trek from that perspective, it does look like, you know, Captain Kirk and his crew are the good guys, and they sometimes run into other good guys, but for the most part they're sort of battling evil. And I think from my perspective, what Star Trek did for society was sort of encourage us that we should be out exploring space, that we should be looking beyond Earth. We should be going to the moon, for example. We should be going to other planets, whether by robot or by whatever means we can, whatever means possible. But I think it fed into this need for human beings to explore places that they've never been and they've never seen, and I think it's been a very positive thing for the most part, except for the Star Trek conventions.
Well, I know for one, I was influenced by Star Trek. I wanted a flip phone, and in Star Trek we had the flip phone. I still say, beam me up, Scotty, whenever I don't like something. And I want things instantly, and so I can get from here to New York and back in no time if I'm on Star Trek. In real life, it takes a long time. What do you do to show your wife that you love her on Valentine's Day? Phil Ricks.
I'm sorry, Madam Tabletopics Master. I had the microphone in my ear and I did not even hear the question.
So let us look at this question. What do you do to show your wife you love her on Valentine's Day?
What every red-blooded American male should do, say yes, dear. We don't celebrate Valentine's Day as a specific day because Valentine's Day to my wife and myself, I believe, is in our hearts. She's going to be watching this on television, so. So, honey, if I don't bring you flowers home this year on Valentine's Day, think of the other days that I have bought you flowers, because I do occasionally buy my wife some flowers on any given day. It doesn't have to be anything special. But Valentine's Day, I recall in elementary school giving out Valentine's Day cards and the little candy hearts, and I remember picking out the ones for the girls that I kind of had a little crush on, and those would be the ones that I say, I love you, and the girls that maybe I wasn't so particularly interested in, those were the ones that say, hello there, if you remember all the unique quotes and the candy hearts that we so much enjoyed when we were kids. They didn't taste very good, but it was the message that was conveyed. So as Valentine's Day comes and goes, just remember it's not just one day. If you truly love your wife or you love your husband or your significant other, it should be something that is cared for and carry it all year long. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil. I wonder if that'll work. I doubt it. This is kind of, for those of you who are Monty Python fans, the kind of question that everybody expects to hear, but usually they don't in Table Topics. What is your favorite color and why? Our guest, Jonathan.
Well, to answer the question, my favorite color would probably have to be blue. The reason being is because I was adopted when I was younger, and the only thing that was provided to me and given to me by my biological mother was a blue blankie. So I still have that today. I still have it on my bed, but I use it more of a headrest now to provide extra support with the pillows opposed to actually warmth. But it is the only thing that reminds me of her. Still love it, still cherish it. I will provide it to my kids when I have kids in the future. But that's really my favorite color. It's the only memory I have of her.
Mr. Toastmaster, I have completed my question.
Thank you. Very nice, Sheila. Very nice questions. Nice opportunity for everyone to get up and speak. We'll be back right after the...
What future do you envision for yourself? What dreams do you have? If you want your dreams to come true, you must have confidence in yourself and your abilities. A Toastmasters Club can help you build that confidence. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters shows you how to express yourself clearly and effectively. Make your dreams a reality. Join a Toastmasters Club.
Welcome back. The next portion of the meeting is where we provide the all-important feedback and evaluations to the speakers for today. And to lead the evaluation portion of the meeting is Jerome Manigan. Jerome.
Thank you very much. We heard four proficient speech makers today. They informed us about goal setting, suffrage, the history of suffrage in America, the increased dangers of driving as we age, and the public health issues posed by presentism and influenza. All of the speeches were thought-provoking. Now we will hear evaluations of those speeches. First, Sheila Mudd Baker will evaluate Carol Kormelink.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. And thank you, Carol, for that great reminder that New Year's resolutions and goals do not disappear on the third day of January. The title of Carol's speech was Harvard Grads, Goals, and You. And Carol reminded us of the SMART goals, starting with the specifics. So because Carol's speech had as an objective to show how her body speaks, I'm going to speak specifically about her body and her hand gestures. Hand gestures were wonderful. Carol loves to talk with her hands, so it worked very well. But unfortunately, I could barely see your body. And it would have worked better for you to be out this way rather than back here. If the objective of a speech is to show a body, the body has to show, not just the hands. We have more than just our hands and our face when we give presentations. Carol's presentation was excellently done. Her topic selection was timely. By the time we hit February, we've all forgotten what it was that we told ourselves we were going to do this year. Her facial expressions were quite well done, except for one time, and I'm on the camera today, so I noticed that. She put up her certificate, and from my camera, I couldn't see her anymore. But if I'd been in the audience, I still wouldn't have been able to see her if I was over here. So I would suggest that when you put things up, you put them up at a level like this so that people can still see your face. For people like me who are a little deaf, I also am looking at your face so I can make sure I understand your words. Overall, the speech was extremely well done because it was well organized with a strong beginning, middle, and end. But when it came to the objectives, I'm going to give you a C in terms of body gestures. I give you an A on your actual presentation in terms of the content. Absolutely an A. And a B on gestures. But when it comes down to body language, you get a C. But I have to say that the part we could see, which was from here up, was just great. So thank you, Carol, and we hope to see more of you in future speeches.
Thank you very much. Rick Davis will evaluate the very informative speech of Michelle Hennekes.
Thank you, Jerome. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Michelle. It's a privilege, and all I can say is women have come a long way, and you as a Toastmaster have come a long way. I thought your speech was very, very good. This is your third speech. You're still a relatively new Toastmaster, but you did a great job. And in fact, they asked, what could the Toastmaster have done better, or the speaker done better? And I had a real heck of a time finding something that I could come up with. Your objectives were to select a speech topic and determine in general its specific purpose, organize the speech in a manner that best achieves those purposes, Ensure the beginning, body, and conclusion all tie into reinforce the purpose. Project sincerity and conviction and control any nervousness you may feel. Strive not to use your notes and incorporate suggestions from previous evaluators as you prepare and rehearse the speech. And I think you did a great job. I saw no nervousness. The only suggestion that I could come up with was that maybe you should try it without your notes, because you hardly ever looked at them. I mean, you were up here and there was like one little glitch, and you looked at your notes, but I think you had it down. You knew what you wanted to talk about. It appeared to me that you had rehearsed the speech very well, and I think you did a great job, and I look forward to future speeches. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Practice makes proficient, and we certainly have seen that over the last year or so with Rick Barron and the presentations that he has made to us. We are now going to hear the evaluation of Rick's speech, and as I was listening to it, I was thinking, he wants to take away my driving rights. He's not a very nice person. But at any rate, Steve Ahrenholz will evaluate Rick's speech.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, our honored guests watching from home. Rick. Rick's speech was from the Communicating on Television manual. It's the first project, and it's entitled Straight Talk. The title of his speech was Pedal to the Metal. The speaker was asked to prepare and present an editorial designed for an on-camera television presentation. So part of the evaluation that I'm going to give speaks to how well you did up here on the camera, and then I do have some other topic or other speech, some other considerations in your speech that I'm going to address as part of my evaluation. Good job. I thought that you did a very good, you had a very good presence on camera, although I'm watching it here in person, and I would like to see it on tape as well, but my evaluation is going to be limited to what I could see this morning. Your topic was very timely, the aging driving population. One of the things that I think would have been helpful to me is if you could have given us some perspective as to where you're coming from. You don't look like you're getting anywhere near the age group yet that we're going to have to do some additional testing on, but I think it would have been helpful to me if I got some perspective of, are you concerned about this from your personal safety? Do you have a relative that you're dealing with this? Has something happened to a friend or something like that? Because then we have a little bit of a perspective as to why is this important to you. You had good eye contact, and I believe you followed the camera pretty well. They were behind me, so I couldn't tell which one was on. It's something that we're all just adjusting to now in our TV Toastmasters Club that we haven't always had the opportunity to deal with, and that is which camera is live that we're looking at. One of the other thoughts that I'd like you to think a bit about is you gave us a lot of supporting information for your position that you shared with us today. I think that it would have been a little bit better, at least in my mind, if you would have chosen 2 or 3 primary statistics and pare down how much material you're presenting, because you had quite a lot that you were giving us. My take-home message was that we have an aging population. Their accident experience tends to increase as they age, and this is because of a variety of factors that are going on, and that we do need to come up with an approach as to how are we going to increase the safety both for themselves and the surrounding driving public as well as pedestrians. That would have helped me as far as keeping straight your primary message, rather than let's see this percentage, and then as we get older the percentage is increasing. So I think that might be something to consider. Overall, I really enjoyed your presentation, and I look forward to hearing your next one. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Steve. I really enjoyed all of the speeches we heard this morning. I thought that they all were very, very excellent, and they certainly demonstrated the proficiency that Toastmasters in this club, TV Toastmasters, have attained. The next evaluator, Rick Barron, will evaluate Steve Ahrenholz's presentism and influenza in the workplace. I thought that it was an extremely informative presentation, and it certainly will cause me to think about the service workers I encounter day in and day out. And I am very grateful to you, Steve, for that speech. Rick Barron evaluating Steve Ahrenholz.
Thank you, Jerome. My role here today is to evaluate Steve's speech. He gave the same speech I did out of the Communicating on Television manual, the first speech called Straight Talk, where he was to prepare and present an editorial designed for television. And then he was to present some news or current issue and then his reaction to that. So his topic was on presenteeism, people who are on the job but who really aren't there because they are sick. Specifically focusing that at restaurant workers and the impact that that has on the rest of the eating population. Very, very appropriate and timely. I think more and more families spend time eating out these days than they do eating at home. And so as the cold and flu season ramps up, people are eating out. Very appropriately selected topic. So I think the topic that you selected, Steve, was right on target. There was a lot of facts and figures that you referred to from the study that you presented or spoke from. And I think for me anyway, the facts and figures, I heard them, I understood them, but what I was looking for was more of an emotional response. And that reaction that you had came later in your speech, and I kept waiting for the punchline. I kept waiting for the punchline, and when it came, it wasn't as impactful as I thought it was going to be. And so that would have been my only real input for you, was to have made it more emotional, more impactful, relate it to something personal, talk about the general population and maybe a story specifically that you may have had and how that related to it. In terms of your presence here in front of the camera, it was outstanding. You are extremely proficient up here. You do a wonderful job of thoughtfully communicating to us what it is that you have on your mind. It was very professional. You were dressed appropriate for it. Very good look, very impactful, but I think that could have been expanded a little bit more by bringing some emotion to it. Outstanding speech. Thank you. Jerome?
Thank you very much. In this role, I also have the opportunity to make general comments about today's meeting. We started on time after hearing an excellent presentation from Steve Ahrenholz about mentoring. The meeting flowed smoothly. You can tell that you're in the company of very competent, very proficient speech makers. They performed almost effortlessly. We heard good information, and now it is time for me to turn the meeting back to the Toastmaster. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jerome. I too agree that we had a great meeting today, and thank you all for your participation. Gentlemen out in the audience, remember that if you look at the calendar and it's before February 14th, that Valentine's Day is coming up and you can't miss it. If you miss it, you're in serious trouble. So make sure that you keep track of that, but if it's after the 14th, you're probably sleeping on the sofa anyway, so it doesn't make any, you know all about that. So I'd like to turn it back to our president so that he can close the meeting. Our president, Rick Barron.
Thank you, Rick. I hope you were able to join us for the entire meeting today. It was a very impactful and full of proficient speakers. It's not too late to get started on your New Year's resolution. If your resolution included working on yourself, improving yourself to make yourself more proficient at speaking, or improving your leadership capabilities, maybe you should come evaluate TV Toastmasters. We're here at the Anderson Center, 7850 5 Mile Road, on the third Saturday of the month at 9 a.m. If you'd like some additional information, please visit our website at www.tvtoastmasters.com. That's www.tvtoastmasters.com. This concludes the January 2011 meeting of TV Toastmasters. Thank you for joining us.